Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. We got the gang back together again tonight. Sean's back from his trip from DC. How was it?
Oh, it was a blast. It's a beautiful ballpark. And it was like
Always.
it was supposed to rain like most of the weekend leading up to it, and then we got a little rain Friday night, and then the rest was fine. It was a beautiful day on Sunday, like for the day game Sunday afternoon. Beautiful. So it was perfect.
That's
Did you get
awesome.
yourself one of the cherry blossom jerseys?
No, I got the hat though.
Nice.
I was so close to wearing it on because I know how much you hate it, Nick, but I'm like, not gonna do that to you right away.
The hat's not bad. I don't know. I just don't like the
No,
whole
I was I
idea
was
of them.
I was cranky about it because I was hoping like Sunday afternoon, like final game of a series, I was hoping they'd wear them. But I guess they wore them Saturday night, and they had like 15 hits. So I'm like, why not run it back and wear them again?
Right.
And then they didn't, and then Verlander kind of settled in and dominated that game. But we can get to that later.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like didn't the Red Sox like request the league to keep wearing them when they got on that hot streak? Was it in like August or September?
Bro, the Sox still haven't lost in those jerseys.
Yeah, crazy.
They still
Insane.
haven't lost in the City Connect jerseys.
If I have to see them every night to, that just so they don't lose,
Listen,
then
if
that's
it helps us
fine,
get
but-
back in the wild card race, hell yeah, I'll see them every night.
Well, yeah, they're so ugly the opposing team can't even get on the field and look at them.
Oh, please.
All right, Harrison, how you doing, bud?
Good.
Awesome. All right. So before we get going, just follow us, like us on Facebook. You can subscribe on YouTube. If you do not have Facebook and all of that, you can follow us then. All right. Leading off, we got a couple things we're going to touch on. We'll start with the Trevor Bauer hearing started today to overturn his 2-year suspension. We were kind of talking about it a little bit before we started recording here. Do you want to kind of take the ball on this one, Harrison?
Yeah, sure. So this is Bauer's chance to have his day in court to argue about his 2-year suspension. Which including time served is quite the suspension. So they've got an arbitrator in place, Martin Scheinman. He's the independent member of the 3-person panel. And then there's one rep each from MLB and the Players Association. So they always do this with a person from the Players Association, a person from the league, and then independent third party, so that there's no bias there and they get 3 separate viewpoints. Most of the time, these take a few days. They think this one could take up to 2 weeks because the case itself is complicated. He had there were these charges brought against him. Obviously, they were all dropped. There's a lot of he said, she said in all of this. It is an unprecedented length for a suspension that was not related to, basically betting on baseball like, Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose. But it's an unprecedented suspension, which is why it's going to take a little bit of time to go through it. But the overall consensus is they think it'll be reduced because it's lengthier than a lot of suspensions for something you could argue is, maybe not similar, but directionally the same thing. But who knows? This could go anyway. They could come back and say they like it as it is and he's stuck. They could come back and take it way down, but there's no indications yet what's going to happen.
I mean, Ugath Urbina committed murder and they still didn't suspend him. I mean, granted, he went straight to prison, but they didn't suspend him.
Didn't have to.
Smart.
I'm just saying. They never suspended him. He literally killed somebody.
Well, I always laughed, Ray Lewis killed many people, but that guy never missed a game. So there's all kinds of situations where you've got domestic disputes and, outright violence against partners. This isn't one of those. This is one of those situations where,
he said, she said.
It was consensual to a point. When it turned is where they have to argue about when it became, not something they're both up for. And it's just a weird one because you're getting into people's sexual lives and weird preferences. And I can't imagine sitting there for 2 weeks and listening to the backstory of his situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think the unfortunate thing for Trevor Bauer is, and I can't believe I'm saying unfortunate for Trevor Bauer because I hate that guy, but he's such an unlikable person. Like he's always had this air of kind of like he's better than you, he knows more. He's kind of like, Trevor the mad scientist, like all this kind of nonsense that kind of gets floated around, like back to his Cleveland days. And he was always he always had this kind of air of like pompousness about him.
Oh yeah.
And then, and it just makes like people like that. It's easy to dislike them. It's easy. And then something like this comes about, and it's like, I'm not saying like I believe it, don't believe it, like whatever. That's different for a different day. But like, it's just unfortunate that he's trying to get an unprecedented sentence reduced where like, I bet you most of those people in there are just like, dude, we don't even like you. Like, you probably did this. You're a scumbag, like yada, yada. And it's just, it sucks. I think the league is kind of looking at it. And Harrison, I know a couple weeks ago when we touched on it, I think the league definitely looks at this guy as like a giant pain in the ass, a giant guy that we would love to get out of the way and spotlight off of him for 2 years plus. Like, no one talks about him. No one has to see his face. And then hopefully he just fades away. I think that's like best case scenario for the league.
Right.
And I do think that hurts him. I think that played against him in the sentencing? Probably. I mean, I would think I'd be an idiot to say it didn't play any role. It's just, it sucks for him. I mean, if he wants to continue to play the game, I mean, doesn't have a lot of years left. I mean, he's not a 22-year-old guy. And this is essentially the end of his career if this thing stands up. So, I mean, it sucks to go out like that, but, it's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad because, Bauer's done a lot of good in all this. He's the one that kind of blew the whistle on the sticky stuff and how to use it and the ways around it. His approach is horrendous. The guy loves the spotlight. He loves to, like his antics on the mound, his press conferences, like he just loves to be, different and a contrarian, and he likes to blast the league. And for the good he's done 20 times more damage because he just can't help himself. And what's interesting in all this is that, what frustrates me with the league is that, like, whether he's guilty or not in a court of law, MLB doesn't have to really pay attention to that. They just have to prove that he committed an act that they are allowed to punish him for, and they have just cause to do so. Because it's almost like, when you work for an employer, like if you get a drunk driving rap, even if you aren't found guilty, they're still going to fire you. It's one of those things where the league doesn't have to follow the court.
And whether or not there's enough evidence to prove he's guilty, whether he's actually guilty, whether it's somewhere in between, the league, it doesn't take any effort at all. The league can say, this guy's tainting our image. The NFL calls it the shield, right? But like Major League Baseball, like he brings negative attention and negative light to Major League Baseball. And that's a fact. Like, that's not like my opinion. Like, that's a fact.
Right.
So Major League Baseball can look at it and they can kind of stick to it and go, listen, man, court of law is the court of law. Like, we have nothing to do with the court of law. But you are most definitely bringing negative energy, negative impact, negative talk, negative everything to the game. And we don't want nothing to do with you. And they're within their right to do that. I mean, they are the employer.
Well, I used to love when guys would get suspended for the conduct detrimental to the team. This is basically that for the league. You've done stupid stuff. We look bad. It's your fault. And what I'll be really curious about is, so say that this whole thing happens and they uphold the suspension. Will the Players Association, knowing who he is and the rap he's got and the reputation he's got, will the Players Association continue to fight on his behalf? Or are they going to be like, oh, we're done. Sorry, Trevor. See ya.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I would be surprised, maybe not fully shocked. I'd be surprised if they go to bat for him again, to use a baseball term. I think if they uphold it, I could definitely see the Players Association being like, listen, man, you wanted to appeal, we appealed. We fought the appeal, we argued the appeal, we lost. That's it. Like, I could definitely see that. And especially because, like, we're not talking like Tom Brady deflating footballs and destroying cell phones. I mean, the Players Association you're on a razor thin edge, man. Like, you can come off looking really bad. Like, if you start arguing hardcore that, like, the woman asked for it. Like, in today's day and age, man, like, you're going to, like, alienate, and you're already alienating people in Major League Baseball. You can't afford to just be like, well, we're just going to alienate all the women. Like, you just, like, you're, like, that's a dangerous game to play. Like, I'd be surprised.
Well, and that's actually a great segue to the Josh Donaldson, Tim Anderson situation, where in this day and age, there's just certain things you can't say or phrases you can't use. I think Josh Donaldson intended his Jackie comment as playful because Tim Anderson called himself Jackie in an interview a few years back. But in today's day and age, to your point, Sean, you can't direct that comment at a player of color and expect to not get smacked for it, because although you may not have meant it that way, it's absolutely going to be taken that way.
Yeah.
What did you think people were going to think? Like, did you think that in the year of our Lord 2022, people are going to be like, "Oh, he's just joking"? Like, no one thinks that about
Yeah,
anything
haha,
anymore.
that's funny, Josh.
Like,
That's
like
great.
that's
Yeah.
never like that'll never be a thought. Like, you have
No.
to know that.
Especially when it was like the second time he did it. Like he
Yeah,
said
right,
it twice.
right,
He
right,
said it
right.
to him twice. I mean, it started with there was a play on May 13th where like there was an exchange between Donaldson and Donaldson was trying to get back to the bag and Anderson like pushed him off or something like that. So it started there and then Donaldson said all that stuff back to like get back at him and to like neutralize the situation. And then Yasmani Grandal said something when Donaldson stepped up to the plate. And then that's when, I mean, they already had to separate Anderson and Donaldson beforehand, but then I think they had to do it again when he stepped up with Grandal. So, I mean, but you guys are right. Like both situations are this, kind of the same thing. Like this day and age, like, what can be said and what can't be said, what can be done and what can't be done.
Yeah. You just
And
got to be smarter. You
just
got to be
stay
more
away from
thoughtful
lying.
than that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's we are in an unfortunate era in society, if you want to call it that, where it's like intent no longer matters. Like it doesn't matter if you were trying to be funny. It doesn't matter if like you're joking around. Like none of it matters. Like what matters is what you said, and because everyone now has the social media, like even the vocal minority has a voice, and like everyone is going to have something to say about it. Everyone is going to have their 2 cents. Everyone is going to have their opinion. Like, and I'm not saying Josh Donaldson should care about what everyone thinks because he shouldn't, but like you can't go out and say something like that or else you're going to face the consequences. Unfortunately, it's just what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I've got to remind my 10-year-old son all the time. He does something and I'm like, dude, why'd you do that? He goes, well, I didn't mean to. Well, it doesn't matter what you meant. Like what happened is you pissed off your sister or you did this or you made somebody feel bad. Like maybe you didn't mean to, but the way you executed and delivered it wasn't real good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The intent doesn't
For sure.
matter.
So, I mean, Donaldson did get a 1-game suspension handed down. I don't know if he's going to try to fight that or just serve it and use it as an off day.
I think he's serving it tonight. I think it's just let's serve it tonight and get it done with.
Yeah. And I think if the league felt he had real intent to make a comment like that, it would have been longer. I think they're giving him the 1 game kind of as like a slap on the wrist to be like, hey, make a better decision next time. We know you didn't mean to, but we can't do nothing.
Be smarter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of a reminder.
Again, then the league's got to save face in a sense too.
Right.
I mean, you can't have guys out there making remarks like that and then the league doesn't punish them. Like, how's that look? So
yeah,
I agree.
And like as the fans we are, like we don't truly know the absolute context of how he, you know what I mean? He didn't just round second and just throw like keep it up, Jackie, in his face. Like, you know what I mean? Like there has to be some background context there that we're not getting. But the general public sees it as like, oh, like that's a racist remark. Like he can't be doing that. But there has to be some background story there already between those two for him to even think about saying that.
100%, Nick. And I couldn't agree with you more. But I think the one downside of where we are in this digital social media, everything right there at your fingertips age is we feel like we have a right to know everything about everything. That's how people, especially our generation, that's how we feel. We feel like we have a right. And we feel like, oh, well, I saw it on Twitter, so it must be true. Or did you hear he said Jackie Robinson, he's a racist. Right? And like once those words come out, like once you call somebody that, like you can't take that back. No. Like we're in like a dangerous time now. And it's, it's what it is. It's where we are. But I mean, we've said it. You're in the public eye, you're in the spotlight in today's day and age. You just have to be better. You have to know that you can't say that. You have to know that it's going to be taken in a way that maybe you didn't intend it, and it doesn't matter. You just can't say it.
Yeah. Got to be smarter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll we'll put those in the past there, and we'll move on about some matchups from this week, and then we'll talk about some matchups for next week. How about them Red Sox this week, boys? How about it?
Yeah.
We can't really slam them this week. It's going to be a boring show. The Red Sox won.
It was nice to see some signs of life.
Right? So, I mean, what do you think about – you think Trevor Story is going to be a big catalyst? So, to jump ahead a little bit, he did get AL Player of the Week this week. I mean, he had two home run games this week, right? Do we think he's going to be the spark plug for this team potentially, or yes?
Yeah, I mean, spark plug is. I think when this team is going right, it's a team that can scare teams offensively because they've got guys through the first 6 or 7 spots of that lineup that can hit the ball hard. They can hit for pretty good power. They got guys at the top of the lineup that can run. I mean, I think that's kind of the deal. Is Trevor Story the spark plug? He could be for this month, and then he could kind of maybe come back to earth a little bit, and then Verdugo becomes the spark plug. Kike's starting to hit the ball now. He's back at the top of the lineup. He's hitting the ball hard. Even on outs, he's hitting the ball hard. So I think there's a few guys. The constant. I mean, JD, and I know Trevor Story was definitely the guy this week. No doubt about that. I'm not arguing that. Like JD Martinez is starting to become like a legitimate guy now. Just to Ken's point, real quick, while I touch on it, if the Red Sox had a legitimate closer, they'd have 12 more wins. It's insane how bad it is. So bad how the back end of that bullpen is. It's almost laugh out loud funny, except it's not funny because they've cost them at least 12 wins. But other than that, like it's just funny how bad they are. It is it's crazy. It's crazy. You're talking a defined closer, just one guy to close out games, and they're in the hunt for the division at this point, for crying out loud.
Right.
It is outrageous. It's outrageous.
Even if he saves 80% of those games, he doesn't even save them all. They're still in second place.
Bro,
the Blue Jays have slipped.
Until Franchy's walk-off grand slam yesterday, the Red Sox hadn't won an extra inning game. That's home or away.
Yeah.
They were 0-7 or 0-6 in extra inning games until yesterday. That's crazy. That's how bad the back end of your bullpen is. You can't win a game. You can't accidentally run into a win in extra innings.
I would just like to thank the Red Sox organization for listening to the podcast and getting rid of Ryan Brazier. Thank you. From Red Sox.
They didn't get
Nation.
rid of him. They just optioned him. They didn't get rid of him.
Same thing.
They just
Same
optioned
thing.
him.
Bye. Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. Doug makes a
for
good
the
point.
record, Doug, Sean is not part of people. Sean was telling everyone to cool the jets on Trevor Story. Sean was telling people to just relax. This guy will be fine.
Right.
Okay, continue.
I was not dissing Trevor Story at all. I was dissing the team as a whole. I never said write off Trevor Story. When did I say write off Trevor Story?
Fine. Maybe you didn't use the word Trevor Story. Maybe you didn't use the name Trevor Story.
Oh, so Red Sox is Spanish for Trevor Story, I guess, huh?
Essentially. 1 + 1 is 2 next.
Get out of here, dude. No. I love the Trevor Story signing from the beginning, but like just the eyeball test from the Red Sox. Yes, it was early, but
my
like,
thing with Trevor Story, and I still think now, like he's starting to put up really good at bats.
Actually, Doug, you're wrong. I said it. I've never been a Trevor Story guy. I didn't like the signing. I still don't like the signing.
Fair enough.
My thing with Trevor Story, the strikeouts are still a little frustrating, but he is a bit of a higher strikeout guy for the position. He was striking out before he went on this little tear. He was striking out like 31% of the time in the league average. And the league average is high. And the league average is like 26. So like it was a bit frustrating. But even I could take one Trevor Story strikeout a game because he's going to give you good at bats. Like he's starting to foul off tough pitches. Like that grand slam he hit on Friday night, like fouled off some tough pitches. Caught a slider he was looking for, put it over the monster. When he's going well, he's giving you good at bats.
To give you an idea of how bad this Red Sox offense is, after the last 5 games, Trevor Story now leads the team in RBIs and he's second in home runs.
Oh,
that's where we're at.
Yeah, but even when he was struggling, really struggling, he was driving some runs. He was leading the team in sacrifice flies. So there was times where he was getting up,
which isn't necessarily a great stat, by the way.
No. I'm saying it's a great. No, but what I'm saying is he would, even in struggling times, he was finding a way to get runs across the plate. He wasn't coming up with the big hits. He wasn't hitting game-tying home runs. But like a sacrifice fly in a game where you're down 2-0 to make it 2-1, hey, like I'll take that over just a 3-pitch strikeout, obviously. So he was still getting runs across the plate.
Yeah, no, I mean he was doing a nice job manufacturing a little, some stuff here and there, some onesie twosies, but with that stretch, I mean he now leads the team in RBIs. He's got a comfortable 5 RBI lead over Devers,
Right.
and
Right.
not that he was like at 0, but that's just kind of where this offense is at. It's been so bad that he goes on a 5-game tear and now leads the team. And when you look at this lineup, Devers is going to hit, JD is going to hit, Xander's going to hit, and they've been hitting all year, and they weren't scoring jack for runs because nobody else was hitting, nobody else is getting on base. If one or two other guys can be hitting at the same time as those guys, this offense will click, and then the pressure comes off everybody, and you start to see people string hits together. Trevor Story is the guy that seemed to break the ice and got the lineup going again. Is he going to do this every week? No, he's not. But somebody should. I mean, this lineup is designed in a way where, if it's Trevor Story's week, it's Trevor Story's week. But maybe next week it's Kike. Then maybe it's Verdugo, because Verdugo's been really quiet too after having a good season last year.
Verdugo
they need somebody else to hit with those other three.
100%. And Verdugo, I'm trying to personally, like when I get frustrated with this offense, give him a little bit of like a longer leash. Because like if you look at and I'm not a huge advanced stat guy, everyone knows that. However, this guy hits the ball really hard. Like his exit velocity in the league right now is like in the top percentile. He's just hitting it right at guys. Like you would think at some point it's going to break, right? You would think like at some point the pendulum's going to swing a little bit the other way. He's just got to stick with it and be patient. So I don't know. I mean, he didn't play. Was it an injury thing yesterday? Was it more of just giving him the day off?
I think it was just a day off because he had played quite a few in a row.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, he has been hitting the ball hard, and he does, for a guy that tends to swing at a lot of pitches, and he doesn't strike out a lot. So in a era where there's a lot of strikeout guys, he does tend to put the bat on the ball, which, even when he's struggling to get hits, like he's a guy that if you put Kike at the top of the lineup or you put Trevor Story, like, he can do some hit and run stuff. Like he can help you kind of move guys along the bases, which, can always jumpstart offenses. So, I do think this offense is designed in a way where like the pendulum's going to continue to swing. Are they going to come back and lead the American League in runs? Probably not. I mean, that would be crazy. But I do think this is more of the team of who they are than what we saw in April, no doubt.
Yeah, they should be able to score runs. Their pitching is going to be inconsistent, and their bullpen is going to be a hope and pray scenario. And that was what we expected going into the season. That was how they were going to look. But when you look at Verdugo, to your point, Sean, the guy's got 140 at bats this year. He struck out 16 times. He's got half the Ks of Devers or Bogarts in almost the same at bats. He consistently puts the ball in play. Right. Yeah. And I mean, this is a guy who consistently puts the ball in play. And when you do that, eventually things fall in. So like, I feel like Verdugo is going to go on one of those runs because all of a sudden things are going to start to drop because he's consistently putting the ball in play, and it's going to find a hole eventually.
And if you look at the, what's the Major League Baseball, when you click on the stats, like stat something or off the MLB.com website, that's terrible radio, Sean, but I'll pull it up. You can go to like his like advanced stats, Verdugo, and it will tell you he's like, I saw the other day, when it comes to hard hit ball percentage, he's in like the 94th percent of Major League Baseball. So the guy just constantly hits the ball on the screws. It's just right at guys. Yeah. So it's got to break. I mean, there's no way you're that unlucky for a whole
season. Does JD Martinez still have his consecutive on base streak? Or has he lost it?
I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, because it was at like 38 games or something like that.
It was. It was.
Yeah. The one player in the Sox lineup I worry about is Kike, because his advanced stats aren't pretty. The strikeouts are up. The walks are down. It's I don't know what's going on with him, but he's the one guy I look at and I just go, boy, he seems like he's now the farthest one away from stringing something together.
So I kind of play devil's advocate a little bit with him. Is like he was so freaking hot in October where everybody saw how good Kike could be. And now that he's just kind of like there and kind of like an okay Major League Baseball player, everyone's like, oh, he sucks. That just shows like how hot that guy was in October. Is he underproducing? Sure, absolutely. But he was so incredibly hot that even if he's producing here, it's still going to be like, yeah, he's doing okay.
Well, the thing with the thing with Kike's never been a high average guy. His career average is 239. Like the guy's never been a high batting average guy,
Yeah.
but he's always a guy that he gets on base. He walks quite a bit. He puts the ball in play a lot. He doesn't strike out a ton. And it seems like this season, the strikeouts, although, I mean, he struck out a lot for him last year, but he also had a little bit more power. But, I mean, he's on pace for 120, 130 strikeouts. Actually, no, more than 150 strikeouts, which is not at all. That's like double his annual average. So it just feels like something with him is not where it normally is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will say I would be surprised if he continues this pace throughout the rest of the year. Like, I think it started off really bad. Like, it started out like averaging like 3K game. Like, it was terrible. He's been a little bit better, I think, with the strikeouts, putting the bat on the ball and whatnot. I do think it's going to get better. I don't think he's ever going to lead the team in batting average, but
no,
I would be surprised if he kept that strikeout pace. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do think it's starting to come around. I think he's so comfortable at the top of the lineup. I think it was a good move for Core to move him down because, like, it was literally just a microcosm of setting the team up. Like, you would start off top of the first 3-pitch strikeout, and the team's like, all right, here we go. Right? So I think it needed to happen to move him down. But I think Cora, and again, I love him, I think it was just the right move at just the right time to put him back at the top. And I think without Kike getting moved back at the top, I'm not sure if you see what we saw over the last 10 days. Like, I do think that plays a role. I mean, this guy he's a spark plug kind of guy. Like, even when he's even if it's tough at bat, 6-pitch out, 7-pitch outs, like, you know, that can get the boys going. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big home run. Like, you can start off a game with having a pitcher throw 10 pitches to start the game. Like, that's good. It's good for the boys.
Yeah, I like Kike because he's a grinder and he's got enough speed to put some pressure on the defense.
Absolutely.
But what I worry about with him is when he's not consistently making contact like he hasn't been, and he can't use those feet and he can't cause a little chaos. That's when his game kind of gets all out of whack. He's the only guy on the team I look at right now and I go, geez, I can't figure out, like, is he on the verge of breaking out or is he totally lost? Because I just can't tell what's going on with him.
I agree. I'm cautiously holding out optimism, though, because I do think what we saw from Kike in October is a little bit closer to the Kike than what we saw in April, right? Like, similar to this Red Sox team as a whole. Like, so I expect him to kind of come back to the water level a little bit. Like, so we'll see. I mean, that's what I expect. That's what I'm kind of holding out for. So I'd be a little disappointed if he doesn't. But I mean, with the rest of this team, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, instead of like the feast or famine, like, there has to be some middle ground somewhere at some point.
Exactly.
Well, he's such a big piece. I think when Kike starts to get back in his flow, that whole lineup opens up because now you're getting runners on base early in the game. You're getting these big hitters a chance to do some damage early, because it seems like the Sox runs they all come later. It's almost like they either get a couple in the first and then nothing the rest of the game, or nothing and then they start scoring later in the game. But it'd be nice to see that pressure more consistently, so they're not always hoping for that one big hit. Because I mean, Devers has got 9 home runs in the season and 24 RBIs. Because he's hit a bunch of solo home runs because there's nobody on base in front of him.
Right. The Sox sweeping the Mariners. Does that give us hope? Does it move the needle at all, or does that series not really? Well,
it's a sweep.
Know, but like,
listen, man, it's hard to sweep. It's hard to sweep a 3-game series, let alone a 4. And they did it with no doubleheaders. They did 4 days in a row. They beat a team 4 days in a row. I don't care who it is, man. That's got to move the needle. And you can bet they feel it in the locker room that moves the needle. Like, I don't care who you're playing. Yeah. It's hard to beat teams 4 games in a row in Major League Baseball. It's hard.
And you beat Robbie Ray. You beat their ace.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So
yeah, regardless of who it is. I mean, you beat a Major League Baseball team 4 days in a row. That is – in one of them, they came back from Garrett Whitlock's terrible start. They were down 5-0, and they came roaring back, and they win that one on Saturday 6-5. So, I mean, you can bet it moves the needle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good morale booster. Is Seattle a good team? No, they're not what we thought they'd be. But still, to win 4 straight, Robbie Ray wasn't great, and really he got blown up in 1 inning. That was ugly for him. But he's lost, I think, his last 3 starts, and it's all been down to 1 inning. He's just had 1 blow up inning, and otherwise he's been good. So I mean, is it an impressive win? I mean, no, Seattle's not great, but it's definitely a morale booster. And that's not a bad team. It's like they played the Reds. I know you love the Reds, Nick, but
I love them.
but I mean, they beat a respectable team. That counts for something. And that's after coming off this Astros series win too, which
that's huge.
Coming off the Rangers series win after that too. So I mean, that's
right.
three series in a row that you strung.
And it's it could be proving to be at the right time because the Blue Jays are slipping hard. They've lost a bunch. They can't even hit the ball. Like Guerrero's slipping too a little bit here. He's been in a funk. But
yeah, it's you beat Texas and Seattle, who are right about the same. They're both, they're battling for third and fourth in the AL West. But to beat Texas, sandwich a series win against Houston, and then take all of those from Seattle, that's some good momentum.
Yeah, they were 8-2 in their last 10, right?
Yeah,
is that their last 10, 8-2?
Yeah, I think 9-3 in their last 12 too. I think if you go back that far.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean,
8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, I'll take a 9-3 12-game stretch any day. I don't care who you're playing. That's.
Absolutely.
When you do that, and you saw what the Yankees did in April, when you can string 9 wins in 12 games, you're going to gain ground on anyone because that's not an easy thing to do. So you do that 2 or 3 times in a year, which is a lot to ask, but that's kind of what the Sox are up against now. You do that 2 or 3 times in a year, you'll find yourself pretty close to where you want to be, I think, in September.
Yeah, you could easily gain possibly 6-7 games in that one stretch, even if
we'll see.
If a first place team goes 6-4 and you sit there and you go 8-2, like you're gaining 2 games,
sure.
each 10-game stretch. So
sure. And I know we said it, and the Yankees, we expected the Yankees to win games. We expected the Yankees to score runs. The Yankees have played nobody. I mean, they have played absolutely nobody.
Soft.
And the best team they've played so far this year has been Toronto. And Toronto, as you said, is scuffling. They're 3 games or 2 games above 500, whatever they are now. I mean,
3.
New York is at home right now. 3, yeah. New York, did they get swept by Chicago or
they got swept by Chicago? No,
it was a sweep. It was a sweep. They got swept by Chicago, and they're now at home. They're losing 4-2 to Baltimore. So I mean, they're starting to come down a little bit too. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sitting there.
They're not going to go 26 right. They're not going to go 26-9 in their next 35 like they just did. There's zero chance.
Right. And I'm not sitting here on May 23rd telling you the Sox are going to tell you right now the Sox are going to make a big run at the division because it's a lot to ask. But I mean, I don't think they're going to finish the season 11.5 games out of first place, though. I tell you that much.
No.
Like I do think the gap is going to close a little bit. Anything can happen, man. You get to meaningful games in August. As a baseball fan, like all I care about, you give me meaningful games in August and September and see where the chips fall. Like, let's do it.
Yeah. And that's baseball, right? It levels out. Like there's especially this first month and a half. Like, yeah, we've acted all like, over the top that the Red Sox have been so bad, but like baseball always finds its way to even out, and like the law of averages and all of that, like it will even out. It's still
over a long season. The good teams are going to emerge. The teams that aren't are going to fall back, and it's going to come in spurts. You're going to drop 7 out of 10, then go win 7 out of 10. It's just the way the game works. You're going to get hot, and you get a couple guys hit, and you're all set. But the Yankees have had a hell of a run here. They've had a soft schedule. They've played 16 of their 41 games against teams over 500. So, they haven't been like, I would say, super tested, but really, except for that White Sox series, they've pretty well owned Tampa and Toronto so far this year, which are their main competitors.
Yeah, they have.
I mean, I think the Yankees are who we thought they were, but we all know
let them off the hook.
Yeah. Well, but we all know they're not going to stay healthy. That's the problem. That Yankees team has been really good for 3 years, but they can't keep the damn guys in the field long enough. Judge is going to miss a month. Stanton will miss a month. LeMahieu will miss a month. And this team will falter for the part of the summer, and they'll just kind of spin. It's what they do. It's what they do every year. And that's when the gap will tighten, and then they'll figure something out and make the playoffs and hopefully be out quickly. But same with the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays started off hot. They've hit a little funk. They'll come back. That team's too good not to. Yeah, and Tampa's doing what Tampa does. Tampa's doing what Tampa does. They find ways to win games. And as much as we hate the guy that's sitting in the dugout, they find a way.
Not me.
They find a way.
I can't remember if I mentioned it last week, but they did the Blue Jays option Kevin Biggio to AAA. So they did send him
He
down.
was
so,
sucking wind.
Yeah, he was
one of the-
struggling hard.
Yeah. Just stinks.
Well,
One of the legacy players didn't pan out.
Well,
Judge
I mean,
just
it's
tied
early.
that
He's
game
still a
up
young guy.
4-4.
But what
Judges hit
what I'm
another
having-
one.
Yeah, Judges hit a ball to, I think, like the
Jeez.
Hudson River. I think it was
Yeah,
friggin'
friggin'
smoked.
Jupiter.
Oh,
That guy is. I mean, he's
Unreal,
definitely
dude.
playing for a contract. Because my God.
I'm telling you this, man. Judge is the guy. If you let him off the hook in a sense, it's over. I mean, you give him a fourth strike, it's over. They had him.
Yeah.
He fouled off a tough pitch, hanging slider, sent to Mars. I mean, it's just it's science.
Yep.
He's gonna do it every single time. He's unreal.
It's a video game. But
It's a video game. It's ridiculous. You can't let him off the hook.
What do you guys?
So big
What
a
do you
stroke.
guys have for matchups coming up this week? Did you see any that interest you?
I mean,
I have one. Brewers and Padres.
big-
I think could be good.
Yeah, I agree. My big one starts tonight. Mets Giants. It's in San Francisco. I think San Francisco came to New York, and the Mets really showed who the Mets are.
Right.
But I mean, that big Scherzer news is no picnic. I mean, I think it helps that the Mets kind of built themselves a nice little lead at the top of the NL East, and as we said, it's going to come in waves, and they're probably about to hit their wave where they come back to earth a little bit. But they built themselves a nice little lead. So
What
I think
was
they
that?
should be a
I
little
missed it.
comfortable
Was
there.
it a shoulder? Is Scherzer
No,
out
well-
with a shoulder?
it was something with like an oblique or something. Let me pull it up. It was like
Yeah.
I didn't
see that. I saw
he
the
said he
injury,
threw a
but didn't see
pitch.
what it was.
he threw a pitch, immediately felt like a tinge like down the side, like of his right side.
Yeah.
And then like immediately was like, yeah, like I'm done. And then they did an MRI, and then it's not like season ending, certainly, but I mean we're talking that, and all I've seen so far, the typical time frame for an injury like that is 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
But
well, and what's
Scherzer's a freak though. Like I could also see a scenario where it's like he's like
Comes back
begging
for his
Buck to
next
throw
start.
in 4 weeks, and then Buck's like,
Yeah.
just relax. Like you can't. So like we'll see kind of with him.
Yeah.
But he's the guy, particularly with DeGrom. Like you just never know. I mean, the MRIs on DeGrom have come back, and everything's been positive news since. But as Harrison has correctly pointed out so far, like they are in no business to rush him. Like they're not going to rush him.
No.
They're going
No,
to
they
take.
don't
They're
need
going to
to.
do everything. They're going to do everything on the late side of every timetable, which they should. So, Scherzer's important. Like you're going to need him down the stretch. So if it's 8 weeks,
Absolutely.
man, it's 8 weeks, and you got to figure out a way to make do. That's kind of the one thing I will say as I'm rambling about the Mets, but that's the one thing that did scare me with this team going in is like depth. They don't have a ton of depth. They don't have a ton of depth in the starting rotation. They certainly don't have a lot of depth at like key positions. Like you lose a key guy, you lose a Francisco Lindor, or you lose a guy like that. Eduardo Escobar, who like I thought was a great signing at the time. He's been awesome. He's had a great year. I love him.
Yep.
You lose a guy like that, like I don't know, man. Like those losses can pack up pretty quick. So
They did
I do
try
think
to
they have some work.
They did try to trade for Chris Paddock, but then I think a physical came back not good or something like that.
that I think is the biggest indication this is not the Mets of old. I mean, the Mets are already like, okay, let's go find a replacement. Like they're already out scouting potential replacements for Scherzer, so they don't have to rush him.
But agreed. But I even think, and who am I to know? But even more to the fact that this isn't the Mets of old. Like I think Billy Epler was looking at this roster and going, you know what? We need to boost our depth. Even before the Scherzer injury happened, he's probably looking at this going, you know what? Let me talk to San Diego. Let me call about Chris Paddock, or let me call Texas about this guy. I'm just throwing teams out there. But I think he's probably looking at even before the Scherzer injury, being like, you know what? Something's going to happen, and in case it does, we're better off to have a plan, and that is not the old Mets. So
no,
we'll see. We'll see tonight. I'm interested to see how this West Coast trip goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Mets of old would have been caught off guard and shocked that somebody could have gotten hurt and they had no backup plan.
Yeah, right. And then they would have rushed him back.
It made it worse for sure.
And then they would have been like, "Well, God, we need you, so we need you out there." And then it would have been worse.
You know what will help Syndergaard? Just cut your hair for us. That'll make you come back faster.
Yeah, haircut solves everything.
Goodness gracious. How about series for you, Harrison?
Boys, The Dodgers have a perfect game going.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But don't worry about it. They'll pull him in the 7th.
It's through 6 right now. Yeah, let's see. It's Tyler
Yeah, he just
Anderson.
threw his final pitch.
Let's see what the stats are.
Yeah.
He's only thrown 5.
Okay,
So he's
we're
thrown
still
5 innings, 5
Dave Roberts
Ks.
can't screw it up yet.
0-2, bottom of the ninth, 2 out. Can we bring in Blake Trinan, please?
Going to the pen.
Boys. He's thrown 5 innings. He's thrown 50 pitches, 39 for
What?
strikes. If he's thrown 10 pitches an inning.
He's
10
gonna get
innings.
yanked. He's gonna
He
If
get
hasn't even
they
yanked.
broken a
yank
sweat
him-
yet.
Dude, I can't
If
watch
they
it.
yank him,
I can't watch it.
if they
It's
yank
because they're
him,
playing the Nationals.
if
Damn
they
it.
yank him, I'm flying to LA and I'm going to do something regrettable to Dave Roberts. Regrettable. I'll likely never make it home.
Yeah, we'll have to put you on a 2-year suspension, but you can appeal it.
Yeah.
I'll appeal it to the powers that be.
It's right. This
Um,
podcast would be
yeah.
great from prison, right, Sean?
Oh, I would do awesome in prison.
You,
could,
you
only,
were
could only do it on Thursdays from 5 to 6, but I'll be behind glass.
During my yard time,
right.
my rec time.
Oh God.
Oh,
Anyway,
man.
so baseball
Yeah.
schedule for this week. There's 3 series I find interesting. The Blue Jays at the Cardinals, I think, is pretty cool
Oh.
to see.
I did that one.
Vladdy, and then you got Albert Pujols on the other side, kind of the earlier version of, or the later version of him, as well as Arenado, who's tearing the cover off the ball, has been all year. I'm looking forward to the Red Sox White Sox matchup, the rematch there. I think the White Sox kind of embarrassed the Red Sox in that series.
Yep.
I think the Sox are going to be the Red Sox looking for a little bit of revenge there.
Yeah.
Both teams are playing well though too. I think that'll
They
be
are.
a really good 3-gamer because like both teams are hot.
That's
Yeah.
in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And then at the end of the week, the Yankees are heading to Tampa, and that's always a good series when those two get together because it's the clash of 2 very different styles of baseball.
Yeah. I saw the one that intrigued me a little bit. If the Blue Jays are back, and that's the Blue Jays Angels this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That could be just
And where is that
interesting. That's in LA, I'm pretty sure.
In LA. We're heading out
I-
there. We got Chicago, then Baltimore, and then we're heading out west. Well,
Yeah.
Seattle, Oakland,
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah.
trip.
Blue Jays are at the Angels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that one could be an interesting one this weekend. I'll be looking at.
The Red Sox have the Orioles all weekend. I hope they make some noise.
Yeah.
God, I hope so. But yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on to our 7th inning, which is the players of the week. The AL player of the week. I don't have the stats on me. Do you have it right there?
Yeah, I got it.
Harrison?
So
The players
AL
of
Player of
the-
the Week,
Yep. Go ahead.
obviously Trevor Story, who had a whole week in about 4 days. But for the week, Trevor Story hit 360, 6 home runs, 14 RBIs. Basically, he came into the week with 15 RBI. He doubled his RBIs over a 5-game span, which is absolutely
That'll do it.
bonkers to think that's possible. And I also love the fact that his grand slam was caught by Johnny Gomes. Which
Yeah,
was
that
epic.
was so awesome.
Awesome. I had that in my final notes, dude.
Yeah, that was epic.
Great.
And then NL Player of the Week was Sandy Alcantara from the Marlins.
Oh, weird. A Marlins starting pitcher. Oh,
Yeah, he finished the
weird.
week with an ERA of .53 over 17 innings, opponent batting average of $1.50, and he retired 29 consecutive batters. The final 20 he faced against Washington, the first 9 against Atlanta. He retired 29 straight batters between 2 games.
Yeah, he threw a perfect game in between 2 games.
Right. It's like, what?
Crazy.
But a .53 ERA? I mean, that's
Disgusting.
that's
That's
like
one run.
we all
right?
had that
It's gotta
one
be
kid in
run.
high school who had those numbers. Like, he's dominating grown men.
That's what it is. He gave up 1 run this week and 17
it.
innings, right?
Yep.
Yeah, .53.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
That's it.
insane. And a 150 batting average. So gave up 3 hits maybe all week.
Yeah, so
1
it's
run,
amazing.
3 hits in 29 innings.
He threw a complete game, which he's thrown 4 since 2019, second most in baseball over that time frame. Interestingly enough, he's also thrown 504 innings in that same time span since 19, the 4th highest inning count in baseball. So he's durable as hell, and he's out there every day or every 5th day. So far this year, he's 4-2 with a 2.11 ERA, He leads the
No.
league with 59 and 2/3 innings pitched.
Dude, I'm telling you, you give the Marlins a couple veterans who talk about this almost every week. And like they have
Think
the
of the-
pitching.
Think the Red Sox and Marlins could make a rotation trade? Can we just like swap our pitching staffs straight up?
I would totally be down for that. Give us Pablo Lopez and Sandy.
Well, the nice thing is they'll be free agents in a couple of years, and you know they're not staying, so
That's true.
they'll be available.
Goodness.
But yeah, those are video game numbers. It's just not even
That's
right.
awesome.
They
So
are. And
good.
Jazz Chisholm is a fun guy to watch in that lineup every day.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Perfect game over.
Oh, that was quick.
1 out double in the bottom of the sixth.
Shucks. Couldn't have happened
That's
to
my
a better
fault for
team.
turning it on.
It's all right.
you,
It's all
you
good.
ruined it.
I did
All right,
ruin
well,
it.
head
That's on
on,
me, boys. Look at this Baltimore.
I don't
fighting
care. It's
back.
the
Baltimore
Dodgers,
took
man. I
another
don't
lead.
care about the Dodgers. But yeah. All right, we'll move on to rounding third question that we threw out. We threw out who are the World Series favorites at this point of the season. Morgan said Dodgers and Astros because he said that they need to prove someone else has to prove that they can beat them. We've kind of said that about the Astros, like being in the West. Like I can see
They've
that
been
for
to
sure.
5 straight ALCSs. I mean, until somebody else gets there and knocks them off,
Yeah.
it's theirs.
Yeah. I just hate it. I hate
Yeah.
it. Nick says Subway Series, so Yankees Mets.
I think everybody right now probably feels pretty good about a Subway Series if assuming these teams hold up.
Doug says Mets Angels because he refuses to say Dodgers Yankees. So, I mean, and then Ken chimed in on this, and I love this, so I shared it to my personal page, and he goes Cardinals and fucking Yankees. That's
Nice.
how he put it.
That would be a series, though, man. I mean, I know it's early,
Yeah.
but if those teams, I know those teams have to play because I know the Sox play the Cardinals, the Blue Jays play them, so I'm sure the Yankees do play them. I don't know when, but that'd be a series to tune into.
Yeah,
I really hope Albert Pujols gets to take the mound again, and Yachty was pretty good too. I mean, they got some decent pitchers coming off the field.
Did you see that thing I posted? They had their numbers side by side, and it was
Identical. Absolutely identical.
I'll tell you, man, that Cardinals team is a shortstop away from making serious National League threats.
100%.
They are struggling at that position. That's a definite position of need for them to address, and I'm sure they will.
And
But the rest of
I
the
thought
team,
for sure Paul DeYoung was that answer, and then he just
really did too. And
Yeah.
I think everyone did. Like anyone saying that they expected this, I would say is a little bit of a recency bias because Paul DeYoung, when he first came up, was a legitimate player.
nasty.
I wouldn't say MVP caliber, but certainly starting caliber, all-star caliber on the borderline. Like a guy you would be like, oh, he could be there for the
Absolutely.
next handful of years. And then he just fell off the face of the earth. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have really struggled finding consistency at that position in particular. They solved for other ones that were nagging them, but they've not been able to get consistency in the
Is
middle.
Jack Flaherty back for them yet?
I think he's still out, if last I saw.
Yeah, last I
Dude,
saw
and
too.
you get an ace back in your rotation, dude. Like, if he's healthy.
Oh, he's an animal.
Yeah, he's disgusting.
He is an animal. I love his attitude too when he's out there. He's a bulldog when he's out on the mound. I love it.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a team that could come in and make some noise, and a lot of people aren't talking about them for sure. Just quietly sitting there in the NL Central and can sneak up on some teams.
That's the thing. I mean, the Cardinals are kind of very quietly sitting there, 23-18, 3 games behind Milwaukee. Leading the wild card. Like they're just kind of hanging out.
Yeah,
just
beating who they're supposed to beat.
And that's for sure a team that I could see in right after the All-Star break, late July, they have a big 4-game series with Milwaukee and take 3 out of 4, right? And then really kind of put their stamp on, hey, we're here. I could definitely see that.
You know what they
that's
do?
a really good baseball team.
Well,
You
and
know
I feel
what they
like
do? They trade for Correa at the deadline.
Wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if they're already on the phone with Boston for Bogarts.
I say they trade for Bogarts at the deadline.
I mean,
That
you
wouldn't
got some
shock me at all.
primo shortstops there at the deadline.
You want to hear what's
Correa. Crazy.
You want to hear what's really shocking? So, over my shoulder here, you've got the Brewers who have entered the top 5 of the power rankings. But when you look, so they're 26-15 on the season. They've played 5 games all year against teams over 500. 5
Just
games.
5?
5. They're 2-3 against teams over 500. 5 games.
Yikes.
You want to talk about a cupcake schedule? But go back and look. They've played like the Pittsburgh Pirates 20 times, the Reds 20 times. Like they're cycling through the same junk teams. They played the Rockies, the Diamondbacks. Like they keep playing junk, and they've had the softest schedule in all of baseball.
Wow, that's crazy. 5.
And
Wow.
based on the runs they've scored, runs they are allowed, they would be predicted to be 2 games worse than they currently are. Even with that cupcake schedule, they've given up a ton of runs.
Yeah. I mean, their pitching was really horrendous in the first month. Like they weren't.
Oh, it was terrible. It was absolutely, it was abysmal.
Oh yeah, they were.
It was
really
hard
bad.
to watch. I mean, the expectation of what those guys did last year, it was hard to watch this year. So, I mean, last month. Jesus, Sean, have a day.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, who do you guys think? I mean, who would you take right now?
I mean, I can't go again. Like, I take the Mets in the National League right now. I mean, I know I'm saying right now, like healthy now. Like, if the World Series started right now without Scherzer, like no. But I'm saying the team as constructed now, assuming that like I would take the Mets. American League, Houston's a good one. They're playing so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're back.
Angels. I mean, what's up?
He said they're back.
I said, yeah, they're back.
I'm sorry.
And Verlander's pitching like he's 25 again.
Like I said, so we saw that game. We saw that game last Sunday, and he pitched that Sunday afternoon game in Washington. And we're sitting up there in the stands, and beautiful stadium, beautiful day. And he walked a couple guys in the first, got out of it. Walked the leadoff guy in the second, got out of it. And I said to Sarah, I'm like, Washington better take advantage of this because he's going to – next thing you know, he settled in. It was like the 5th inning. He got through the 5th. I think he gave up a total of 2 hits. He had like 4 walks but 2 hits. They only took him out because he had 105 pitches because he was kind of all over the place early. But he's the guy. Like, he's such a veteran pitcher. Like, you got it. If he puts himself in trouble early, you have to take advantage. And if you don't, you're going to look up. You're going to be down 3 runs. It's going to be the 5th. You're going to say, what the hell happened? Yeah. You know, and that's a team in the American League. I hate to say it, but I mean, the Yankees do look good. I still have reservations about their manager, and I still have reservations about their ability to perform consistently against like top teams. I mean, Garrett Cole, granted, it's you can nitpick one game. Garrett Cole looks terrible today. The Yankees come in the 5th inning and they tie it up. Garrett Cole comes right back out there, gives up the lead. Like he's supposed to be the ace. Like, he doesn't look sharp. I don't know. Yeah. I think I have reservations about the Yankees. So I guess I'd go Houston. I guess I'd say Mets, Houston, I guess is my long answer to your question. Although I also think the White Sox are looking good. I do think the White Sox are a lot better than what they are now. I'm not sure they're at the World Series level yet, but I do think the White Sox are a lot better, and they're starting to play good. You saw that this series in New York. I'm excited to watch them play the Red Sox, in the next couple of days. So Houston, but outside chance Chicago.
What about you, Harrison? What are you thinking at this point?
So I feel like the Mets are the NL team for me. I think to Sean's point, healthy, the way they're constructed, I think they're one of the few teams that really can go toe to toe with the Dodgers, and handle the Dodgers are like friggin' 4 Hall of Famers in their lineup. Like, it's ridiculous what they have out there.
And just to add to that, I will take Buck Showalter over Dave Roberts as a manager any day of the week in the postseason. Any day of the week.
I was going there next. I would trust Buck Showalter in a 7-game series more than I would trust Dave. I mean,
blindfolded.
I say I would. My wife would manage better than Dave Roberts, but I mean, I'm when it comes down to, on paper they're probably very equal teams, but Buck Showalter will absolutely outmanage the pants off of Dave Roberts. Not even funny.
No,
The American League for me is a tough one. I still think the Blue Jays are the best team in the American League. They are scuffling right now hard. I don't buy the Yankees. I mean, they're living on the long ball right now, and we all know in the playoffs that doesn't work. So
the
I look at
long
them.
ball, the
Yeah,
opposite
well-
field single that leaves the yard.
Well, I mean, but you look at, between yeah, right. But between Judge, Stanton and Rizzo, they got like 36 bombs already. And the Yankees right now are leading the American League in ERA. That's not a real stat. Like they've had a softer schedule, so I look at that and I go, I don't think
Well,
they're as good as they
I don't
appear.
think I can't believe I'm playing devil's advocate to the Yankees, but I do think the Yankees have a really good bullpen. I think it's.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Their ERA, that team ERA, that comes from the pen. Like they will lock it down. Like you got to get to the starters. You got to get to Cole early. You got to get to Severino early because that bullpen is nasty. And Aroldis Chapman is kind of falling back to earth. He's given up what 5 straight appearances where he's given up a run.
Yeah,
So he's a little bit fallible. But as a whole, that bullpen is disgusting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Has been gross. Nestor
There's
Cortez out of
Nestor
nowhere.
Cortez, yeah, for sure.
Like,
But there's no real starter in the Yankees rotation that makes you go, oh crap, I don't want to face him twice in a 7-game series. All of them are beatable.
I agree.
Nestor Cortez has a mustache, correct?
Yeah.
What happened to their clean face rule?
Oh, they got rid of that a while ago.
True.
Are you sure? Because Isaiah Kiner-Falefa had to shave when he went to the Yankees.
He's gone.
I thought they allowed the tight mustache or goatee only, no other beard, and then it had to be the trimmed hair. But I don't know.
You call Nestor Cortez's mustache a tight mustache?
Well, it had to be like a groomed, clean. Yeah, it's but it's like groomed and clean. I'm pretty sure when George Steinbrenner died,
what it is. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, it is.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I'm pretty sure when George Steinbrenner died that Hal kind of relaxed things a little bit, but I guess we have to look at that and see if that's a thing. But in the American League, I still feel like the Blue Jays are the best team. I just don't think I could pick them right now because they are in a world of hurt. So I'm going to default back to the Astros. I think at this point they're the one team in the American League that knows how to do it. Yeah. And when you've got no certainty with anybody else,